Hello, this is Noah Brewer, and I will be giving you this presentation overview of my research proposal for completion of my capstone, which is entitled Examining Student Composition Practices. It is a proposal for a qualitative study to be conducted in the secondary English education classroom. So the purposes of the study are to investigate the ways that secondary English students make meaning through composition practices and the role that educational structures play in either subverting or encouraging these meaning-making practices, and to explore, in particular, the mismatch between what experience tells us about the processes of complex thinking and identity formation, and the most common methods of assessing and measuring learning, which are, standards-based assessments and high-stakes tests. So the research questions that this study is intended to answer. Most broadly, how do students compose in the secondary English composition course? And then what state of relations between students, teacher, classroom, feedback, evaluation, and assessment works best to engender critical evaluation of self and surroundings? And what roles can teachers play in facilitating this meaning making through classroom literacy practices? So the conceptual framework is grounded in an ecological understanding of writing that advocates for an understanding of the self as multiple, liminal, and distributed, spread across traditional boundaries of body, time, and location. It understands the act of learning as comprising a complex assemblage. Successful writing is an emergent quality contingent upon the interactions between student, teacher, medium, genre, technological tools, and educational system spaces and structures. So it is a qualitative framework that seeks to sort of tease out the complex interactions between these many different facets of learning as it happens in the classroom. So for the literature review, I explored three elements essential to grounding and understanding of student composition: motivation and assessment, social theories of composition, and just pedagogies. So within the review of motivation and assessment, it becomes pretty clear that grades and other traditional forms of communicating performance are poor motivators, and that a mastery orientation where students are invested in getting better at a thing they care about leads to deeper learning than achievement orientations wherein students are attempting to meet some external or extrinsic motivating factors such as grades. Social theories of composition understand readers and writers as making use of texts for social ends. Literacy is a social practice mediated through tools, and so these theories sort of demand that we seek to understand what happens in the classroom through the lens of social constructions, complex interactions between people, but also between people and their tools, how they're being used and why. And then just pedagogies demand an autonomy supportive classroom, which leads to increased student motivation and engagement, to build a classroom where students feel like they're in control of their own learning, and to develop healthy environments for student learning and empowerment, beyond just meeting goals within the classroom, but meeting personal goals for identity creation and for creating a more just world. My methodology is sort of twofold. On the one hand, I will be conducting this study through the lens of participatory action research, which will engage students in the research process itself, building the research alongside them. I will come away from this study not only having understood something important about student writing and my own situated experiences as a teacher, but also having empowered these students to move forward in their education, better equipped to resist and respond to forces of bureaucratic control. So the design of this study insists that students are given some control over the shape that the study takes. Part of the development of the actual study will be engaging students in developing the questions and identifying the issues that stand in the way of their own learning and writing, and to understand how to use writing in order to address these obstacles. And then I'll couple this with an autoethnography, and this comes out of the fact that I will be both teacher and researcher in this situation. And so I will use autoethnographic blog in order to understand my own embeddedness as a worker in the classroom and the way that my own approach has shaped the possibilities for students in the classroom. So there's a risk when conducting qualitative research in your own classroom that it's your own preconceived notions about learning that drive and shape the forces. So through conducting an ongoing autoethnography, I hope to be able to incorporate that set of transforming attitudes and practices into the research itself. So research methods are multiple, and the reason that I'll use so many is in part due to the complex understanding of composition that within which this study is grounded. Participant observation, both ongoing and focused, in-depth interviews with students and also with other teachers in my English department, on the autoethnographic blog, which I will sort of add to in an ongoing way. Participant-generated documents, so student writing and reflection within the classroom, including both formal and informal writing. And then a critical inquiry discussion that is text-focused, that seeks to engage students with the question of the purposes of learning more generally and writing in particular. And so this is a sort of quick overview of the text-focused critical inquiry discussion. It includes 4 texts in different modalities that students and teachers will engage in, both individual, small group, and then whole class discussions about the texts and how they shape how they ask us to sort of reevaluate our positionality within the classroom. And then the significance of the research. In a qualitative study, the broad applicability is always difficult to establish a sort of generalizable set of assumptions based on a limited qualitative study. So on the educational establishment, I hope to deepen the general understanding of where and how learning takes place. That is the strength of a qualitative study such as this one, and then to build on work of previous researchers in calling for a broad reevaluation of what learning is for and how it might best be promoted, to build on the studies of what assessments work and don't work in order to see how those are engaged with by students and teachers within a classroom context. At the school level, my teacher participants, I hope my department will gain deeper insights into their own assumptions about composition pedagogy, and then perhaps initiate department-wide reevaluations of pedagogical practices. So, a reevaluation at the school level of how we are teaching writing and what best practices within the classroom may lead to better outcomes. But I think most significantly, I hope that this research has an impact for the students in the study itself, which would be to building a critical consciousness. Through focused and facilitated reflection on their own practices of teaching and learning, students can grow in their view of writing as a rich and powerful field upon which to navigate their social worlds. So to the end of a participatory action research, really the outcomes should be a increase in autonomy and praxis for the students that are involved in the study. And thank you very much for viewing this presentation.